a lot of news about one particular company we love and admire and we track. So it's going to be an interesting talk today.
Yeah, indeed. Ciao, Jack. How are you?
Very good. Very good. Thanks. All right. I mean, let's start immediately with the big news. Bending Spoon is really like making headlines. Let's talk first. We have two big topics on the table. I would say let's start with the raise $270 million in a growth round from the classic investor that we've seen moving really with Bending Spoon. So big international investor, T. Rowe Price by Gifford, Cox, Durable Capital, and Fidelity. So very interesting as usual. Just another excuse to actually go deeper into the strategy. So just to give some visibility, it's a total of 710 million package. So it's 270 million in primary and 440 million in secondary share. So at the end of the day, yeah, good raise, solid capital for growth, and on top of that, some liquidity for the early investors or shareholder in general of Bending Spoon. What's your first impression here?
Yeah, I mean, my first reaction is, oh, we have a decacorn in Italy, right?
Indeed.
And as you were recapping the news, I was taking a look at a recent news from TIP, one of the early investors in Bending Spoon. Do you remember back in September, 1 month ago?
Yeah.
TIP is a public company, so they marked up the valuation of Bending Spoons to $5 billion. And today the announcement is about an operation at $11 billion. And we probably know, or I think I read in some news, but it might be that TIP sold at least part of its stake in Bending Spoon. So they either sold it at a 50% discount, or they had a further markup on the second level. But still, let's get back to the core of the.
But no, good insight. Totally good insight, and it's an interesting perspective on how the timing really affects quickly actually valuation, both in terms of seller and in terms of buyer. I mean, if they sold it, people that bought it today, they bought it then. Very happy news today. Amazing, yeah, for sure.
When the actual deal happens, but still, because the deal is a big deal. The equity operation was $710 million, of which 270 in primary, so new capital raised, and the rest are secondary shares, just secondary selling. And interesting. So quite a few of the early investors in Bending Spoon cash in.
Absolutely, liquid that helps growth, hiring, and market, expansion for sure. So and again, yeah, you can push things forward. I think you can push things forward.
It's like 50% of the amount of capital raised by Italian startups in 2025.
That's a good perspective. Yeah, that's true. Well, more, that's probably, maybe one question that since you mentioned this is how this capital is going to trickle down into the ecosystem actually. Like, how maybe it's going to support the ecosystem in general in terms of, hiring developer, maybe working with early stage companies of some sort, maybe in the team sort of creation and expansion. That's probably going to be one of the big expense, but definitely I'm feeling it's going to have like an impact there.
Well, for sure. Bending Spoon is already so. In this week's newsletter, there was also an article from TechCrunch with kind of the backstory of Bending Spoon since the beginning. And basically the measure talent attractor in Italy, according to the article right now. So everybody wants to work with them and for them. And from what we know, they are a very demanding company that pays American compensation to the very best in class. So I understand why people want to work with them.
That's a good point.
yeah, and as you mentioned, we don't know how the equity will be used, but we do know that they raised $2.8 billion in debt, in part probably to fund the acquisition of AOL, and they have another one on the table that they've been discussing, so still unannounced.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if adding a smaller equity cushion was also a way to make the debt investors happier. We don't know. I don't have the balance sheet in mind, but still might be.
Totally true. So what's interesting is, talking about the debt, 2.8 billion debt package. So again, fueling M&A roughly. Even though we have sources, I think that the AOL deal is valued differently. Some sources, like the Wall Street Journal, says 1.5 billion. But still, what remains is really the fact that such a big debt sort of facility is a signal of confidence in the cash generation of whatever they're doing and whatever they're like moving forward. So all major investment banks are really like betting on them being capable of generating a lot of cash to repay back the debt. So that's excellent, confidence news. Yeah, I would say.
What was interesting? What I read that AOL is still today one of the top 10 email domain providers.
Indeed. So, yeah, from the Wall Street Journal, 8 million daily active user and a little more than 500 million in annual revenue. So, again, customer base there. Some comments from Yahoo and from Apollo say that Bending Spoon is really taking AOL to the next level because it's been there, it's not been growing, so they're really excited of sort of giving up their stake to this to make AOL great again. So let's see how it's gonna work.
After liquidity, would you say no to $1.5 billion? Not too shabby.
Indeed. So it was an interesting comment there.
Half a billion revenues, you said?
$500 million, yeah. Some sources report like about $500 million.
3 times its revenues.
3 times revenue, indeed. Yeah.
If that's true, that's interesting.
Some data still to confirm, but that's pretty much the logic, yeah.
Multiple, if you think about the current markets. And that's another thing that I was thinking. I mean, everywhere in the world, people are just have only one thing in mind, and that thing is AI. We've never mentioned AI with Bending Spoons. They are not after AI. They're not saying anything about AI. They're acquiring old, boring companies with a lot of users.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of user and potentiality for cash. So they're really like optimizer at the very core. And, one other topic that comes up like a lot of time is basically the parallel between Bending Spoon and Constellation Software. And everybody says it's similar, it's different, and similar and different. I would say it's pretty different. I mean, the kind of integration is on the same track, but they're really taking it to a different level. So I was checking, Constellation is way more sort of B2B, solid sort of infrastructure, software infrastructure businesses, no consumer, and trying to sort of take them and integrate them and never sell them. So there is not much of a growth sort of path. Bending Spoon is pretty much about optimization and growth on top of the congregation of different apps. So a lot of differences actually. So I'm not sure if the parallel really ends up where you say it's software like putting together other businesses. Yeah, but that's way more than that, I would say. So very, very interesting comparison. Yeah.
It resembles more a private equity platform. So you have this operating juggernaut that acquires good businesses and turns them around. it's a well-known play in private equity.
Yeah. So yeah, and I would say again another sort of check in our intuition that Bending Spoon is really building some form of optionality for future listing. I mean, that's definitely on the table, and every time we check out this deal, it looks like they're one step closer. I mean, that's roughly the feeling, right?
Yeah, agreed.
Interesting. All right. I mean, there is so much more layers talking about Bending Spoon. Really, there is a lot more things going on, which we should do a whole episode deep dive into the different structure, strategies, and everything. But it's exciting to see this player in the Italian ecosystem. Yeah, Decacorn definitely is going to do good. And even sort of marketing wise to the Italian ecosystem, now these guys have international recognition, which is extremely powerful. As I was mentioning to you, talking with some US investors, nobody ever knows any Italian companies. Well, there you go. A couple of years it's been passed, and in the past 2 years, Bending Spoon, people are talking about Bending Spoon. So very, very powerful for sure.
Yeah. Right now, I'm visualizing a line of the big private equity managers that invested in mature software companies, and this line is in front of Business Spoon's main office. Like, hello,
Indeed.
We have assets for you.
Exactly. All right, so on a different note, let's talk quickly about Hercle, crypto infrastructure startup working on stablecoin integration, raising 10 million in a growth round from F Prime. So I wanted to mention this because maybe there is some pattern emerging. So we always talk about emerging patterns, what might happen, what might not happen, etc. So these guys essentially have raised 10 million in equity with essentially a credit facility of 60 million. 10 million in equity with a credit facility of 50 million. So firepower of 60 million total. And they managed to involve a very interesting investor, which is F Prime, which is the evolution of the venture arm of Fidelity, one of the biggest wealth manager on the planet, asset management on the planet. So very interesting deal with very interesting pieces and components. And yeah, I mean, the intuition is maybe there is some pattern there. Maybe it's the Italian combo recipe, which is, equity plus some form of debt plus international investors as early as possible. So very interesting.
Yeah, maybe. What I have to say that international investors as early as possible is probably the strongest signal of quality, both in terms of companies that are emerging from the ecosystem and the entire ecosystem, getting more plugged into the broader startup economy globally. So that's good. And as you mentioned, I think it's a very interesting deal in this case. So 10 million as in equity, 50 million in debt. That's scale up capital. And that's a very good signal. In the crypto space, that's interesting.
Absolutely. I mean, when people would sort of back off from crypto, then, the stablecoin, like a regulation, basically happening in different countries. So that's definitely, it's a big push, but it's kind of been brewing there. My feeling is that the idea of stablecoin, it's one of the most solid and more digestible, I would say, application of crypto. Plus, Hercle is really working on a very much big nerve of the system, which is quick and reliable exchange of money across different countries in the fastest possible way. So interesting play. It's a problem that hasn't been solved. The quickest bank, they do days. There are people doing hours, okay, but there is always the currency exchange variable. So the stablecoin is definitely a way to fix that.